Let's do it.
How was everybody's lunch? Good.
They look too relaxed.
You didn't melt out there? All right.
So we're going to talk about something which is very, very important for all of us. We're going to talk about healthcare now. And we have some very, very interesting panelists. We just spoke to one of them, and I think he's going to tell you what he exactly does, and that's very, very intriguing.
Saving people's lives.
Yes.
He's a true hero.
And he has declared himself to be the good doctor here, so you can judge him for that.
He was on time, too, I'll add.
Yeah. So we would like to invite Nitin Rai, again, the chairman of TiE Global, and let him take over the introduction for this particular session. Yeah?
Excellent.
Nitin?
Wow. Those lights are bright. Could you dim those, please? So I can see the audience? No, don't turn more on. Just dim those lights in front of my face. Good afternoon. Was that a delicious lunch or what? Are we all awake? All right. Okay. Again, I'm Nitin Rai. I'm chair of TiE Global. Before I became chair of TiE Global, my main role within TiE Global was vice chair, and I also helped launch TiE Global Angels. And TiE Global Angels has been sort of a culmination of almost 8 years of work that I have done along with a very committed group of charter members in TiE Oregon. We started investing very early. We launched our chapter in 2007, and in 2010, we decided that in order to be relevant in our community, we needed to write checks, and we needed to write them fast, quickly. We wanted to say a quick yes and a quick no, and if we said no, then we wanted to let them know why and provide them with mentoring. If we said yes, we'll invest, we'll help them build a syndicate of investors, and then we would continue to mentor them till they achieved an exit, a liquidity event. And very proud to say that we've been very successful being in a very small city. I mean, we call ourselves a tier 3 city. And in that learning, I brought to TiE Global a couple years ago. When I joined the board, I said, we want to do this globally because we have almost 3,000 charter members. And there's wealth of knowledge. There's deep expertise in a variety of areas, and you're going to see an example of that today. And also, there's a lot of money. These charter members are, many of them are very, very successful entrepreneurs, and their give back is not just their time and mentoring, but they're also interested in investing, and there just never had been that sort of culmination of effort. So we launched TiE Global Angels as a virtual platform, and TiE Oregon hosted it. So let me just flip the... And we donated our program manager, Ben here, to actually run this virtual platform, and I assumed the role of chair of TiE Global Angels. And our mission is to bring smart money and fast money to entrepreneurs globally via the Global Angel Charter Member Network. So our objectives are to provide entrepreneurs a platform for funding, and that includes pooling capital from the Global Angel Network. We want to streamline the process of cross-chapter investment. So our program manager resource really works with them to get the capital pretty quickly to the entrepreneur. And then we also leverage and partner with other TiE fund-supported institutional investors like Elevate Capital, which is my fund, but there's actually other funds in the ecosystem. There are other fund managers. As a matter of fact, today I met Venture Catalyst, that's one of the biggest angel group in India, and we've talked about partnering and co-investing to allow that fast money, smart money coming to the entrepreneurs. We're also helping chapters launch their own angel groups, and I'm proud to say that a number of chapters, including Amrapali, that is launching the chapter along with their angel group. I would say there's about at least 20 chapters in the ecosystem that are actively angel investing in the ecosystem. And just in the last 12 months, about 6 or 7 came live that I know of. And again, the idea is that it's not just the mentoring, it's the capital. You know, when you talk to an entrepreneur, yeah, they need advice, but most entrepreneurs, they come to me and said, you know what, Nitin, advice is cheap. I want some money. All right, so money talks. And smart money talks even deeper than just dumb money. And you know, we want to be the de facto angel group in our community, and we want to invest locally and then give this global veneer to allow these companies that in particularly have a global footprint, that are trying to go global, that we give them that next lift of seed funding. And the velocity of that is unbelievable. We have raised, for Hemex Health, that's going to come on stage here shortly, in literally less than an hour, we had over 400,000 in commits. So that's how powerful the TiE network is globally. And then the last but not the least is the mentoring and the sharing of best practices. We have a very tight process of diligence. We make sure our chapters are following best practices. So you're not just shooting from the hip. That you go through a process of diligence, you produce a deal memo, and then you're able to share that with the rest of the network. So the investment decision becomes really easy. So far, we have about 270 members that are registered. I expect this to double this year. And there's about 36 chapters across the globe that are participating, which means their charter members have signed on to our virtual platform saying, I'm interested in investing. We've had multiple calls in the last year. I think we're at about 10. So every couple of months, we have a company that comes onto the platform. And roughly 30 plus investors are on that call. Now, the investment potential of those 30 investors is nearly $750,000 to $1 million. So even if half of them commit, you know, within that 1 hour meeting, we can raise $500,000 from that group. So we've taken 7, I think that number is now up to 10. And in the last year, we've raised about 1.5 million. This does not include a deal that fell through where the commit was $6 million. And these guys raised that in about 2 weeks. It was a German medtech company. So the companies we funded so far is Zito raised about 400,000, Silver Nest, small bitty amount. Hemex Health has raised over $1 million. And like I said, 400,000 in an hour meeting. And she's still raising money. She opened up a round and you know, money just flowed in pretty quickly. And then most recently was a company out of New York called Patti Health. And you look at the kinds of deals that we've invested, many of them are healthcare companies, interestingly enough. So we know that in our ecosystem, outside of the Bitcoin, the usual software, hardware, technology, we have deep expertise in healthcare. So here's sort of our selection criteria. We let the chapters decide who they want to invest in. We don't tell them who they should. It's up to them. But we require them to put in at least $100,000 USD. That's a requirement. And if they have invested that, then they can bring it to the platform. We require certain diligence, certain materials, and we, of course, validate that before we put them on the platform. But it's a very easy process. It's just 2 guys who look at it, make a decision, move on. We put the company profiles on a private Gus platform. The charter members who have registered all have to be accredited investors. So there's a process that they have to follow in order to be accredited. But they all get access to the info. We schedule a call. There's a 2-minute introduction, 10-minute company pitch, and then 45 minutes of Q&A, including an investor discussion. That's it, 1 hour. And then we send out a survey. We take a vote of who's interested, how much money. That's it, connect to the company, done. So for those of you who are TiE charter members here, so this is only available to TiE charter members. If you are an accredited angel investor and you are not part of TiE, join your local TiE chapter. That's the way to get in. And these are our emails. And we also have information. Again, this is directed towards the chapters that are here that don't have an angel group. We have a whole set of documents available to you on how to launch your angel group. So with that introduction to TiE Global Angels, I'm going to invite Patty White, CEO of Hemex Health, to come up to the stage and give a short presentation, after which we are going to have a panel discussion. All right, Patti. Yeah, they're going to get you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's always hard to follow lunch, so hopefully I can be a stimulating presentation and tell you a little bit about Hemex Health very quickly as a background, and then we'll have a very exciting panel discussion where you'll get to hear a lot more.
Patti, can you
okay.
get
Is that
closer to
better?
the mic?
Okay, sorry. All right, let me go backwards there. I guess it won't go backwards. There we go. Okay, great. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Hemex Health. But first of all, I am just very grateful to have this opportunity to talk with all of you. I know this panel was about success, but what I really I'm celebrating is the success of TiE and what an amazing resource that it is for entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you a little bit about Hemex, my story, and how TiE has just been invaluable to us. So Hemex Health, we're really working on life-changing diagnostics and on products that not only can make a difference in the world, but also can build a very rewarding company. And we are really focused on diagnostics. Most of us could go to a high-end laboratory here in India or in the US, but for over half the world's population, that's not even an option. So what Hemex is doing is really bringing the power of a laboratory and putting this into a small box that could be used by an entry-level healthcare worker, even in the most remote areas in those very challenging conditions. And we are starting with introducing malaria and sickle cell disease, and then we'll be adding other things to this platform. So I think a lot of you are probably familiar with malaria. How many people have had malaria or someone in their families had malaria? So even a pretty decent number in this crowd. So obviously when I ask that same question in the United States, I don't get very many hands go up. But you're very familiar with malaria, and you may know that there's a need for over 1 billion tests every year for malaria. And it's also a problem, though, because the tests are not very fast. You may have to wait. You may have to wait a day or wait a few hours. They're not very sensitive, so they end up missing a lot of malaria. So that's one of the areas we're working in. The other one is a diagnostic for sickle cell disease. And sickle cell disease is a genetic disease, but most of the people in the world who carry it don't know it because they've never been able to access low-cost, affordable diagnostics. So we're working in both areas, and the challenge with sickle cell disease is most of the children die by age 5, and if they were diagnosed in their first 6 months, 70% of them would live. So these are huge opportunities in both malaria and sickle cell to make a big difference. So here's what Hemex brings. We basically have 2 different disposables, one for malaria, one for sickle cell. You touch them to a finger prick of blood and insert them into the reader. So the reader does all the heavy lifting, so someone that maybe is not a medical expert can easily get the information. The malaria test takes less than 1 minute, and it's very sensitive, and the cost should be about 65 rupees. So it's affordable and very accurate. This reader, oh, that's great. Thank you. And this reader is battery powered, so it could take several hundred tests a day on one charge. It could go to the most remote areas that might be very heat. It's not heat sensitive, it's water resistant, and the reader also uploads the information by Bluetooth through a phone or a laptop so you can store that, and will also give the GPS location. So this is really a reader that's meant to, it could be in a physician office or it can be out in the field. And sickle cell is very similar. It's more of an 8-minute test, but it gives the same kind of information and also very affordable at about 130 rupees. So the results that we've already had in the field, we've been doing some research clinical testing here in India, in Nigeria, and we'll be doing in Uganda next week. And what the kind of results we're having is our malaria is 20 times better in terms of level of detection. And it also, in our last study, the RDTs missed 20% of the malaria. So we're already seeing great results from our prototypes. And with the sickle cell product, we're essentially doing something you can only do with a $30,000 piece of equipment, in a laboratory with a lab tech. We're doing this in our little reader. So we're very excited about the kind of change we can bring with these diagnostics. And why are we focused on India? Well, a couple of really important reasons. First of all, India has the third worst malaria problem in the world and the second worst sickle cell. So there's a big opportunity and a big need. And also, it's a great place to be able to do business. You've got a very strong, vibrant private market for healthcare, and also a big public market where government is investing in both of these conditions. And then what we're also really is very important to us is you have world-class partners. So we're based in Portland, Oregon, but we come here, we're doing joint engineering with Tata Elxsi in Pune. We're planning to manufacture the reader and the cartridges here in India, and also work with distribution partners here in India, and from India, go to other parts of the world. So right now, we are in final design of our small reader. As I mentioned, we've already had the bigger products out in usage, and we also are doing additional trials. Our plan is to launch in India at the end of this year with both of these conditions. So we're really excited and moving very quickly down that direction. We also have somebody here based in Bangalore who we are hosted in the Social Alpha Incubator that's in Bangalore. So in terms of funding, as Nitin mentioned, we had a great response from a number of angel groups, including several of the TiE groups that I'll talk about. So from TiE Portland, TiE Silicon Valley, and then TiE Global, and also from a number of other angels that's really come together. So we've raised 3.5. We're going to finish off this seed note at 4 million, and then starting to plan for our bigger round, where hopefully here we will be able to, again, leverage this great network of TiE to identify the bigger investors that will come in our $6 to $8 million seed round towards the end of the year. That'll enable us to scale and to be able to really go global. The type of company like Hemex, doing diagnostics and devices, I've been doing these for 22 years. It's typically going to be an acquisition. So it might be a lab company, diagnostics company, or even a pharma company. So my TiE story. So here's the good part that really involves why I'm so grateful to this incredible network. We started in TiE Portland, because we're in Portland, which, as Nitin said, is probably a second or third tier city. And actually, Saurabh is here, and he talked about he actually led the due diligence. So the TiE group in Portland did deep due diligence on Hemex. Then actually, I went down to TiE Silicon Valley and had a chance to present there. And it was such an incredibly welcoming group. They actually invited me to be on a panel at TiECon. So again, I got other great exposure at TiECon. And then we got a number of investors and board members from TiE Silicon Valley. And then we went to TiE Global. And from TiE Global, we reached an incredible network from all over the globe. So for me, what's been so exciting about working with TiE is, first of all, the people in TiE understand what we're doing. You guys, they understand malaria. They understand the challenge of getting diagnostics out to some of these remote areas. So the experience and the personal ability to relate to what we're doing, I can tell you that is so energizing. As an entrepreneur, that's the kind of thing that gets you going to put all those extra hours in that you need to. The other thing is they brought incredible support. So the board members they're on my board, so the two people from TiE Silicon Valley. We also have several observers, including Nitin and Saurabh and Anand, and those guys are there helping provide support. So they're there even attending meetings with us in India, making introductions to us. It makes us feel like we've got this warm surround that really takes us to India and it lets us be truly a global company. And then, of course, the community. And this is the community. The chance for me to be here today to talk to you and tell you about what we're doing. I mean, this is really amazing community. And I will tell you, I've presented to a number of other angel groups, and there is really nothing like TiE in terms of the reception that you get. So congratulations to all of you. I really appreciate that kind of support. And so in the end, what we're really trying to do, you've probably heard the phrase, we're trying to do well by doing good. And I think there's such an opportunity for all of you here at TiE to be able to participate in that. You know, we're trying to do it from the Hemex perspective by doing technology that can really change lives, but also be a very good business model and a very good profitable investment. And for those of you who are here at TiE that are thinking about impact investing, I mean, JP Morgan said impact investing is going to grow from $9 billion to $1 trillion in the next 5 years. So it's a great place to be able to do this and to be able to combine what all of you bring to this engagement. So thank you very much for the chance to tell you about Hemex.
Thank you, Patti. So I'm going to invite Dr. Saurabh Gupta and Prakash Agarwal to the panel. I'm going to let Saurabh actually moderate the session. And we'll start with you guys making like a quick 30-second intro because we're running pretty tight on time. I would leave at least a couple of minutes for a question or two at the end.
And Nitin, just to let you know that the Chief Minister is also on his way. If that happens and he's here already, we'll just break the session for a bit. Yeah?
All right, okay.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Prakash Agarwal, Silicon Valley based. I've been charter member of TiE since 1995. I've been quite actively involved both in Silicon Valley as well as in India. I come to India 3-4 times a year. I spend about 4 months here doing several non-profit activities as well as I'm enabling quite a few joint ventures and partnerships to do Make in India, do manufacturing here in India by bringing companies from Taiwan, US, Israel, and Japan, and we have several things that are going on. I met Patti and her partner in Hemex Management back in, I would say, April of last year. And I just fell in love with this company, and I'll tell you why, okay? My personal goal for India, and the reason I'm spending so much time, is not to only create jobs and do education and make a social impact and all of that, but at the same time find those companies, okay, where India really needs that technology but not available in India. So by bringing those companies to India and enable them to do the distribution and manufacturing, Hemex fit into that model. More so, actually, Hemex they have a sustainable model. A lot of companies who are going after social impact programs, it's very difficult to sustain with, because they're either relying on grants or donations and all of that. But here, we have social impact as well as a very sustainable business model. So the combination of that, quite a few of us from Silicon Valley came together, put together quite a bit of money. I joined the board, and ever since, it has been a really very positive ride to working with Hemex, and I look forward to more growth, Patti, and more support we can provide to you.
Thank you, Prakash. You have been amazing. I appreciate it.
So my name is Saurabh Gupta. I'm a cardiologist by training, and I'm a practicing interventional cardiologist, which means that my expertise is in putting small little devices in places where they belong. My interest has been in early healthcare product development, innovation in the healthcare space, both with new devices, first in man, and then with other ideas which fundamentally can transform the space. I was interested in seeing the response of the audience when Patti asked, how many of you have had malaria? And I think this being a predominantly Indian audience, the hands that did not go up, I suspect you didn't know you had malaria. Because it is just so endemic. Over the years, as I have grown in this field and as my thinking has evolved, I talk about innovation in healthcare space, and one of my good friends, he said, whenever I have a good idea in healthcare, I present it to a doctor. And I said, well, why do you do that? He said, because if a doctor tells me that this is stupid, I know I'm on the right track. So. The reason for that is that in healthcare, we're trained to be risk averse, right? I mean, you do not want a doctor or a pilot taking risks. You don't want them to fly a plane in one direction one day and in another direction another way. And same with healthcare. And so when I look at healthcare innovation, you fundamentally have to break out of that mold, imagine things in a different way. And I think it's a little bit easier to imagine it in the diagnostic healthcare space, because the barrier to entry is a little bit low. So my interest in Hemex started, I'm from Portland, and there's not much that I disagree with Nitin and Patti on, except I don't think Portland is a tier 3 city. I think it's a tier 1 city. Right? I mean, people in Silicon Valley might disagree, but
No, we don't disagree.
Well, I think you should see how many people actually know where Portland is in this crowd.
okay, everybody
How
should
many
raise their
know-
hands. How many people know where Portland is?
Okay, that's tier 2, maybe.
Oh, come on. It is a city about 100 miles south of Seattle. and about 300 miles north of California. And I think it takes the best of both worlds. It's not as crowded as California, and it is not as rainy as Seattle. Okay. So my initial journey with Hemex was, I'm part of TiE Portland with Nitin, and then also the Global Angels program. And as Nitin mentioned, these deals get presented. We have a conference call. It is a very, very well-run operation in the sense that we choreograph and script it. You only get 10 minutes, and then you're cut off, essentially. Similar to how we might be cut off here if you're not on time or if the chief minister arrives. And I immediately saw the impact on this, right? I mean, looking back, growing up in New Delhi, I know how malaria worked. So if you had fever with chills, you went to a doctor, and the first thing you got done was you said, hey, take a course of chloroquine, and if you're not better, come back and see me in 3-4 days. How many people have experienced that, right? I mean, that is how malaria diagnostics has worked, and this from a doctor in the healthcare space. And the reason is that it's not easy to diagnose in the sense that it needs a trained pathologist to look at a slide, and that obviously is prone to a lot of variability. And second, it is just so common. So when I saw this idea that Patti and Peter had come up with, it was very intriguing. And then as they mentioned, I led the due diligence team from a TiE Portland perspective. We had a lot of interest in our own local group. And then what we also do in companies that we're really interested in, we share the due diligence report and we share it across our extended network, which is where TiE Silicon comes in. And then once you see engagement from other TiE chapters, then you can quickly move it to the global platform. So Patti, now that Nitin has told me to kind of moderate this a little bit since he had to step out, could you talk to us a little bit about what do you see as, and you've certainly, Hemex is just a case study of how TiE helped, but talk to us about healthcare and a medical startup on how do you approach this just from an inception stage? Because ideas are plenty, right? I mean, there's no shortage of ideas, and you've had successful companies, you've had successful exits, but talk to us in a global sense on what it means to be starting a healthcare company.
I think especially starting a diagnostics or treatment, something that's a clinically based healthcare company, you know, it's not on all the way. I'll try. Okay, is that better? All right, so really starting a clinically based company like Hemex is, as you may know, there's a long time cycle to develop the products. And my co-founder and I, we have, this is the 4th time we've worked together, so we've done a number of startups. And we decided we wanted to shortcut that cycle because it's a lot easier if you can find technology that already is working and has a little bit of proof. So in our case, we decided to license technologies from a university and get really a jump start. So really find something that already had proof and that we could get to market in 2 years. So that's really why Hemex is going so quickly, because we did get to start with something, and something that we already saw worked on patients. What we then had to do, which is really critical in healthcare, is make sure that you have something that's really not just a nice to have, but really a need. So we spent 6 months, we self-funded this, of really going out and talking to malaria programs all over the world. We came to India to the National Malaria Conference that was here. We did a ton of research with clinicians, with patients, really understanding whether this technology was worth licensing. So, you know, you have to go through a lot more steps being in medical than you do to just, to do an app or do a tech play. But in the end, I think it's worth it. You come up with something that has really a IP behind it. It has a strong competitive advantage. It's defensible. And typically our medical products that we've done have lived for 10 to 15 years in the marketplace. So, that's the advantage when you get one that's successful.
Now, Prakash, when you originally saw the deal come in with some due diligence from the Portland chapter, and this being a healthcare space, I know you have some experience in the healthcare space, but your primary background is in technology. What are you looking for in a health tech startup that makes you think that A, this might have impact, and B, it might have successful? I mean, to be honest, companies are only effective if they can be sustainable. And certainly social aspect of it, the betterment of health and humankind is a big factor in it. But at the end of the day, you have to find a good revenue model. And so what are the sort of things you're looking for?
Well, I mean, basically, regardless, what sector the company is coming from, you primarily look for 4 or 5 things. One is, how big is the market? Okay, because only big markets can support a growth of the company. If it's a small market, no matter how hard you try, how good the technology is, it's just not going to grow. So it's very important to understand what the market is. And in this case, not only is it a big market, but it's a hugely social impact market, okay, which is a good thing to have. Then you look at, what is the technology and product. Patti did not mention that this technology was basically licensed from Case Western. There's some really world-renowned professors there who have been working on it for some time. Hemex has taken it from there and further developed it, to even more advanced technology. So there was a foundation technology coming from, which Hemex had been working on for some time. And third, you look for, the management team. Patti and her partner, Peter, they have had very few successful runs, few exits. They have been very active, in this space. So if you start looking at all those 3, it's a basically dream team. It's a dream opportunity, okay? And like I mentioned, earlier, for me, if the primary market is in India and we're bringing cutting-edge technology to have a huge social impact, it's a win for me. So with that, actually, I just had to do the complete due diligence in all those areas, but I already had made up my mind that unless, I find something negative, this is the company we're going to invest in.
Great. In my role as a healthcare professional, my other role is as an advisor and as a mentor to companies. So it's always also interesting to me at what stage companies kind of, so to speak, deepen their bench. So Patti, talk to us about, in addition to the money aspect of it, I know that you and I were chatting this morning over breakfast about how at a similar stage in the life cycle of a company, you may not necessarily have as much of a formal board structure as you do. So, and you've certainly drawn on the expertise of the TiE group in terms of 2 out of the 4 board members being TiE members and observers, et cetera. So tell me your thinking about that and how you think that in addition to the monetary aspect of it, where the expertise in the management aspect helps you.
Yeah, I think that's been hugely important for us because just as Prakash said, you want to have a dream team. And, in startups, you're pretty small. When you first start out, there were like 3 of us. And so what I was really looking for was to assemble a board where I had people that really brought different aspects that could create kind of a broader dream team of advisors and thought leaders and people who could make connections for us. Because I know several people have said to me, well, why, you guys are early stage, why do you have such a large board? And I can tell you that it pays off for me all the time because, I want to get that feedback from people. I want them to be challenging me, making the introductions. I mean, they are oftentimes on trips with us. I've traveled with Prakash in India, with Mohan, who also is on our board and is a many-time successful diagnostics entrepreneur. So I feel like I've gotten a ton of benefit by having these people and having that board established very early on because we wanted to be hitting the ground and running out the gates right from the beginning.
That's great. Yeah, maybe another couple of minutes. I have one more question for Prakash. So Prakash, you and I've certainly participated in a lot of board meetings on Hemex, and we have a quarterly meeting. What are some of your insights from how this interface between having investors being on the board in a more active way, right? A more active investment rather than a passive investment?
So to the credit of Patti and Hemex management, they have been pretty inclusive. The challenge, for any external board member is that they want to contribute, but it really depends on how the management of the company takes it. Okay, because if there's a lot of pushback and all of that, it becomes very difficult because we're not familiar with day-to-day kind of a run, what's going on and all of that. So more they share with us, more we can contribute. And this is where the experience, we have had. I mean, you have been on some of the board meetings observing, where I challenged quite a few things, and they may not have had the answer right then, but then they went back and thought about it, and they said, yeah, we're going to do that. Initially, actually, Patti was only thinking about raising $1.5 million, and then as more started money, because when you take more money, dilution is there, and she asked me, what should we do? I said, Patti, take as much money as you can, and you will need it. Okay, don't worry about the dilution because money is always king, So advice like that, comes from a lot of experience, what you have seen and all of that. But then the management has to be open to it.
Okay, we can take some quick questions from the audience. Any audience questions that?
Any questions? We have the next 10, 15 minutes for this panel.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jitu, and I'm from Golden Hour Systems. Ambulance.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jitu. I'm from Golden Hour Systems, a health tech startup. So basically, while you are screening health tech startups, Prakash, so what exactly the preliminary thought? As you said, the market should be there, a big problem should be there, all these things are there, the team should be there. Apart from that, the way you said, if until unless due diligence, there is something big, no. So what are those no's as such? So team is in place, product market is there. So what can be other no's in terms of while you say no to any investment thesis? Thank you.
I'll take that. So basically, let's say you have all of that in place, or at least you think you have all of that in place. Okay, all right. And if you don't have access to the investors, you should find a good mentor, a person you trust, okay, or go to some networking meetings like TiE. And look for the people, those who have the similar passion as you do, okay, and explain what you're doing. And kind of, make them your champion. And they can help you a lot. Because if you have all three, but you don't know where to go next. So finding that a trustworthy mentor would be important stuff for you to take it.
And I get approached by a lot of health tech companies, and I have to say that a lot of companies, when they start off, they're not necessarily healthcare professionals, they're mostly engineers. So they start off with an engineering solution and then try to find a problem that solution fits in. And I think that works sometimes, but a lot of times you have to actually look at the problem and then see if there is a solution that you can tailor to that. And pretty early on in the life cycle of a health tech startup, you have to make the mental transition from being an engineering company with a medical solution to a healthcare or a medical company that just is an engineering solution. Even though those two things sound very similar, but that philosophical switch is quite profound.
So you are welcome to come to Tier 1 city, Portland.
Myself, Dr. Shantanu Joshi. I want to ask you, sir, first of all...
Can you please be a bit loud? Hold the mic closer to you.
Yeah. Myself, Dr. Shantanu Joshi. I'm a practitioner. And first of all, congratulations to you people for such a good product. I would like to ask you about the accuracy and specificity of the product as compared to rapid malaria test and the regular MPV see under microscope.
Very good question.
Can you please define it? Accuracy and specificity as compared to rapid malaria, which is available in the market today, and the regular test we do under microscope, that is microscopy, malaria MP. For under slide we see it.
Right. No, those are great questions, and I'm happy to share more of that detail with what we've done in some of our studies. But for example, when we studied malaria here in India recently, that's where we were comparing ourselves to the RDTs, and they were missing 20% of the Vivax, which is the type of malaria that's very common here in India, but RDTs frankly just do not do very well against that. So, and we have 51 people, so they missed 10 of them. There was one that we were low on. So, we're not 100%, and we're actually going out with a even enhanced version of our technology for the next set of testing that actually starts next week. So the other thing that's very interesting, because we are actually finding a magnetic particle that's related to the parasite, we're also very specific. So we aren't calling false positives. We're not finding other things that create this magnetic effect like malaria does. So that's also very important to be both sensitive and specific, which is why we're so excited about this technology being able to do both. But we know ultimately you're always going to miss a few. You're going to miss a few positives, and you may have a few false positives when you start doing thousands of tests.
And the key thing with a screening test, a point-of-care rapid test, is that you want to be, you're okay to have a few false positives, but you shouldn't miss disease, because then that can lead to a more specific test that gives you the real diagnosis. So I think there's a question over there.
Yeah, I'm a cardiologist, run a venture capital firm called India Partners. The question is to Patti. We see a lot of startups in using AI in medical diagnostics. Peripheral blood smear is ripe for innovation. And if you have a solution which can pick up malarial parasites among maybe billions of cells, how does your technology compare with a good AI solution picking up morphologically the malarial parasites?
Yeah, so compared to microscopy, we actually are, of course, we're much more rapid, because a good microscopy test is going to take about 30 to 60 minutes.
No, I'm not referring to the traditional microbiologist or a pathologist reporting the smear. Tomorrow, a year from now, you have, in fact, one of our portfolio companies is into using AI in medical diagnostics. The first product is a peripheral blood smear, including the morphological diagnosis, not just the cell counting. If a pathologist takes 30 minutes to review 100 fields of vision, their algorithms can scan 200 fields of vision in less than a minute, actually. Mm-hmm. So when compared to those futuristic solutions, how does your technology looking at the hemoglobin concentration, whatever, look like?
Yeah, so the challenge with any kind of smear type technology, or even any kind of microscopy-based technology, is you're really going to be limited in how much you can see in the sample. So that's where one of our advantages is the fact that we can scan it so quickly with using a magnet and light. We can cover through a lot of cells and a lot of blood very quickly. So that's really where our advantage is over some of these technologies that are even in enhanced ways of looking at microscopy or automated microscopy. I mean, it's very tough also to find malaria at a very low level. And it's really important for elimination that we find the carriers. So we're really talking about something under 5 parasites per microliter, which is really even the best microscopists in the world would have a hard time ever doing that. And we're consistently finding that in our samples that we're testing.
Thank you.
I'm Abhishek, and I have a question more on the business model here. So you talked about that there should be, Mr. Agarwal talked about the demand, there should be, the market should be very large.
Can you stand up? I can't see you.
I'm here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Let's make this quick, please, and this will be the last question.
You said that the market should be big enough to invest. So you understand that the market is big, but how do you understand that there will be return on investment? So how do you calculate the break-even, or how do you estimate that what could be the ROI on your investment?
So it's a specific question in just of a general...
In general, and if you can give an example of any healthcare company.
So only late stage companies and big private equity companies, they do the ROI. The VCs and angel investors don't do ROI because you just can't. You have to go with what you know, what you hear, what you read about the market size. You use your guts, you use your intuition, whether it's a big market or not. And then you basically working with the company, realize that how much investment is going to need in several steps, what is their exit strategy and all of that. And based on that, you figure out, okay, all right, what is the potential there, okay? If you start doing your standard ROI, that's a late stage game. You would not invest in any startups.
Okay, so I think we're out of time, but...
Thank you so much.
Patti is here, so in case you have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to her.
I just like to leave with 3 things. Hemex is looking for a little bit more money. If you want to invest, see Patti after the meeting. And if you have a healthcare startup or thinking some good idea, Here's a good mentor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Saurabh. Thanks, Patti. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.